Hey, you ever get that feeling there's something in the dark watching you? If you're like me, you can't look away. That's why I want to tell you about Creepy Shit. It's the podcast that dives into the strange, the haunted, the downright unholy, true crime that never got answers, folklore that refuses to die, and stories that cling to you long after you're done listening. Every week you're invited to sit by the fire with the rest of us creepers and hear something you'll want to share in a hushed voice. So if you're ready to explore things that might go bump in the night and things that don't make a sound at all, subscribe to Creepy Shit Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Join us. We've been waiting for you.
Before we begin, we want to acknowledge that Down the Crooked Path is researched and recorded in Niagara Falls, Ontario, on the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Attawandaron, and the Mississauga of Credit First. This land has been home to Indigenous peoples for thousands of years, and we recognize their enduring connection. We are grateful to share these stories on their lands that carry their histories, and we encourage our listeners to reflect on the past, present, and future of the land they call home.
Hey, Kyle here. While Amanda takes a well-earned break for the holidays, we're bringing you something a little different. These stories come from beyond Canada's borders, eerie tales and mysteries that stretch far and wide. So settle in and enjoy this special off-the-map edition of Down the Crooked Path.
Welcome, wanderers, to Journey Down the Crooked Path, a place where the stories are stranger, the shadows stretch longer, and the things that go bump in the night might just be listening. I'm Amanda Joy, your guide into the eerie, the forgotten, and the downright bizarre. Here, we step off the well-lit roads of Canadian creepies and venture into the murky corners of history, folklore, and the unexplained, where the whispers grow louder and the truth is never quite what it seems. So let's take a deep breath, watch your step, and whatever you do, don't look back. Once you start down the crooked path, you never know what might follow.
How do you protect what matters most when the threat is invisible, untraceable, and strikes without warning? When nature behaves in ways we don't understand, how do you prepare for a danger that leaves no evidence under wide open skies? And what science and logic fail to explain, where do we turn for clarity? Since the mid-70s in rural locations, a particular and chilling mystery persists. One that provokes more questions than answers, with the most haunting question of all being, even if we knew the truth, how could we stop it? Welcome to Down the Crooked Path. I'm your host, Amanda Joy. Join me as we dive into eerie and spine-chilling stories that blur the lines between reality and the unknown. From cryptids and mysterious disappearances to true crime, UFO sightings, and paranormal activity, venture into the unknown and uncover the secrets that lie down the crooked path. Beneath the quiet vastness of open pastures and under the endless expanse of star-speckled skies, a chilling mystery lurks. Livestock, lifeless and altered in ways no predator or illness could explain. These strange events are marked by precision, bloodless wounds, surgical smooth incisions, and no clear sign of struggle. They raise unsettling questions about the forces at play. Is it nature, misunderstood or misinterpreted? Or is it science, operating in secrecy, leaving whispers of unmarked helicopters and unidentified lights in its wake? Today, we venture into the phenomenon of cattle mutilations, whether it's environmental factors, or human intervention, or something yet to be discovered. These occurrences force us to confront the limits of our knowledge and challenge our understanding of the natural world and science. Let's unpack the evidence and explore how these incidents impact not just the livestock industry, but our wider perception of nature, science, and security. The phenomenon of animal mutilations is not a modern mystery. It has origins stretching back centuries. One of the earliest documented outbreaks occurred in England in 1606, where entire flocks of sheep were found dead under bizarre circumstances. Official records from the court of James I noted that the animals were left with their carcasses intact, but their towel and internal organs were removed with precision. These unexplained events sparked widespread speculations, ranging from supernatural forces to early experimentations. In the United States, reports of cattle mutilations date back to 1869, with similar patterns of precise cuts and missing organs. However, it wasn't until 1970s that the phenomenon gained significant attention. During this period, waves of mutilation cases swept across the Midwest and Western states, leaving ranchers and investigators baffled. The sheer number of incidents, combined with the eerie absence of blood and tracks, forced authorities to take notice and sparked theories of extraterrestrial involvement, cult activities, and even covert government experiments. The case of Lady the Horse, often mistakenly called Snippy, is one of the earliest and most enigmatic examples of livestock mutilation, setting the stage for decades of speculation and investigation. It began in September 1967 in Alamos, Colorado. Lady was a 3-year-old mare cherished by her owner, Nellie Lewis. When Lady failed to return to the stable one morning, and the ranch handler, Harry King, went to go search for her. What Harry found was beyond anything they could have imagined. Lady's body was discovered laying in a field about a quarter-mile away from the ranch. However, her death was no ordinary case. The flesh from her head and neck had been removed with unnerving precision, leaving the skull and some of the vertebrae starkly exposed. The surgical nature of the injuries was chilling. There were no jagged edges, no sign of animal attacks. In fact, no scavenging animals had even attempted to eat Lady at all after death. Even more perplexing, there was no blood at the scene, and no signs of struggles or tracks leading to and from her body. Her hoof prints end about 100 feet away from her remains were found, as if she had been lifted and dropped. The only footprints at the scene were those of the people who worked at the ranch and the horse's owners. As if this scene wasn't strange enough, there was an odd medicinal smell that hung in the air. In the ground, there were 15 burn marks in perfect circles, and about 100 yards north of her corpse, the brushes and bushes had been flattened to the ground within about a 10-foot radius. There were 6 indentations that formed a 3-foot circle, each indent about 2 inches across and 6 inches deep. And even more odd, strange green jelly-like globs were found in the bushes nearby, as well as some metal with horsehairs. When Nellie the owner touched these, her hands burned until she washed them. Local authorities and veterinarians were called to investigate. Initially, the official investigation proposed that Lady had been struck by lightning, a theory that might have seemed plausible given the remote location. However, this conclusion did not hold up under closer scrutiny. The injuries to Lady's bodies were far more precise and localized to be the result of lightning, and there was no evidence of burns or electrocution on the corpse or nearby vegetation. Furthermore, the absence of blood and lack of disruption to the surrounding areas left investigators baffled. As the 1970s unfolded, cattle mutilations began to emerge as a chilling and widespread phenomenon across the United States, with Kansas becoming a particular hotspot. In 1973 alone, 44 reports of mutilated cattle were filed in the state, with each case more baffling than the last. Ranchers would wait to find their livestock dead under bizarre circumstances, Ears, tongues, udders, and genitals were removed with surgical precision. The scenes were eerily bloodless, and there was no tracks or signs of struggle, leaving investigators grasping for answers. This led to the involvement of Hap Roberts, a local investigator who was called to examine the mutilations. Robert was no stranger to the ranching community, but what he encountered during these investigations shook him to his core. The mutilations were not only precise, but seemed to defy conventional explanations. In one particularly disturbing case, a cow's eye had been removed with such accuracy that the optical nerve appeared to be cauterized, as if by a laser, a technology far beyond what was accessible to the average person at the time. The horror of these discoveries was intensified due to the lack of blood at the scenes. Even veterinaries were left speechless, noting that several gallons of blood seemed to have been drained from the animal without a single drop spilled on the ground. The lack of footprints or tire tracks added to the mystery, as if the perpetrators had vanished into thin air. These findings left ranchers and investigators alike grappling with the possibility of something far more sinister at play. As the mutilations continued, reports of strange, unmarked black helicopters began to surface. Ranchers claimed to see these helicopters hovering over their properties late at night, their movements silent and unnerving. The connection between the mutilations and the helicopters became a focal point of speculation, with theories ranging from covert government operations to extraterrestrial involvement. By aviation standards, helicopters are required to display identifiers, markings that indicate their registration and ownership. These identifiers are crucial for tracking and accountability, ensuring that aircraft movements can be traced. However, the black helicopters reported in connection with the cattle mutilations defied these norms. Witnesses described them as unmarked, silent, and often appearing under the cover of darkness, their movements swift, enigmatic. The absence of identifiers fueled theories of covert operations, either by government agencies or unknown entities. Pig farmer James Hagler from Kansas has been vocal about the strange occurrences on his property, including mutilated livestock and sightings of the elusive black helicopters. One night, as he stood outside of his farmhouse, he spotted one of these helicopters hovering low over his land. Determined to confront the mystery, Hagler grabbed his rifle and fired a warning shot into the air. What happened next was terrifying. Shots were fired back. He quickly realized that the bullets weren't coming from the aircraft. Instead, they seemed to be originating from the ground nearby. Hagler turned and fired in the direction he believed the shots were coming from, only to have another gunshot ring out in response. Before he could react further, he spotted a man standing at his pig farm. Acting on instinct, Hagler fired at the figure, who immediately fled into the woods, disappearing into the night. Hours later, Hagler ventured to check on his pigs, still shaken by the earlier events. As he approached the pen, a bullet tore through his hat, narrowly missing him. The incident left Hagler terrified and convinced that he was being targeted. His story spread quickly, fueling paranoia and fear among farmers already grappling with the unexplained mutilations of their livestock. In the wake of Hagler's harrowing experience, reports of black helicopters in connection with cattle mutilations doubled. Ranchers across the Midwest began taking up arms, determined to protect their properties and livestock from what they perceived as a growing threat. The tension reached such a peak that the Nebraska National Guard was forced to intervene, implementing new flight regulations for helicopters to prevent further panic and confusion. Yet the mystery of the unmarked helicopters and their connection to the mutilations remains unsolved, leaving farmers and investigators alike searching for answers in the shadows. Amid the rising paranoia, one particular theory began to circulate, one that drew on both ancient scripture and modern technology. Some began to question if the black helicopters might not just be physical craft, but something far more symbolic. In certain interpretations of the Book of Revelation, the locusts described in Chapter 9 are thought to represent advanced machinery, potentially helicopters. This passage speaks of locusts with breastplates of iron, wings that sound like chariots rushing into battle, and tails capable of tormenting. For those familiar with the biblical imagery, this appeared to correspond with the unmarked crafts observed in the Midwest. Could these helicopters, with their silent movements and precise appearance near mutilation sites, be the modern embodiment of the Revelation's ominous locusts? Like the biblical plague, they seem to descend upon ranchers without warning, leaving devastation and fear in their wake. For farmers facing unexplained losses, the fear of the unknown was far more tangible than any answer science or scripture could provide. And as sightings increased, the sense of foreboding only deepened. Were they connected to the clandestine government experiments, or were they a part of something even more elusive? On an ordinary morning in December 1975, the peaceful routine of Cheyenne Mountain Zoo staff was abruptly shattered. The zoo's caretakers came across a sight they could hardly comprehend: a buffalo lying lifeless in its enclosure. At first glance, the absence of struggle seemed unusual. No traces of predator or blood, just the stillness of the animal's body. As they drew closer, however, the peculiar details of its condition became undeniable. The cuts on the buffalo were unnervingly precise, almost clinical, and key parts of its anatomy had been removed with an accuracy that resembled surgical expertise. The quiet shock among the zoo staff soon gave way to confusion and alarm as investigators arrived to assess the scene. There was no evidence to explain the mutilation, no footprints, no tool marks, nothing to suggest how the animal had been harmed. Even the surrounding area remained undisturbed, as if whatever had inflicted these injuries had emerged and vanished without a trace. The disturbing discovery sparked a flurry of theories, some suggesting that the mutilation could have been the work of scavengers, but the surgical precision of the cuts and the lack of blood made this explanation implausible. Others proposed that the incident might have been a prank or an act of vandalism, but the skill required to perform such precise mutilation seemed beyond the capabilities of an amateur. But the story doesn't end there. As the unsettling mystery of the Buffalo Zoo lingered, attention soon turned to an ominous wave of events taking place hundreds of miles away in the remote expanse of eastern Oregon. The year was 2019, and ranchers in Harney and Wheeler counties were waking up to grim discoveries. 5 young, healthy, purebred bulls were found dead in the Sylvies Valley Ranch, and the scenes were straight out of a nightmare. The mutilations were almost identical to those of the zoo's buffalo. Precise incisions, body parts removed, no blood, and no signs of struggle or disturbances around the carcass. There were no tire tracks, no footprints, nothing. It was as though the bulls had been dropped from the sky. These weren't ordinary cattle deaths. These bulls represented a massive financial loss for the ranchers, each one valued at thousands of dollars. The mutilations were not only inexplicable, but deeply unnerving for the local community. Theories flew thick and fast. Was this the work of a cult? Government experiments? Something otherworldly? Or was there a more rational yet elusive explanation? Some researchers began to explore the possibility of environmental factors. The area's unique soil and climate conditions were examined as potential contributors. Could natural predators or scavengers account for the bloodless, precise wounds? Could decomposition in certain environmental settings create the illusion of surgical precision? These ideas held some weight, but failed to fully explain the absence of blood and the eerie cleanliness of the scenes. Then came another hypothesis: copper deficiencies in cattle. Although this may appear far-fetched, please consider the following explanation. Copper is a crucial mineral for cattle health, and deficiencies can weaken animals, making them more susceptible to disease or even natural predators. The soil in Eastern Oregon is known to have mineral imbalances, with high levels of molybdenum and sulfur potentially interfering with copper absorption. While this theory doesn't account for the surgical nature of the mutilations, it does raise questions about whether compromised health could somehow play a role in these incidents. What has stood out the most in these cases was not the sheer brutality, but the silence. The lack of evidence, the absence of answers. It's as if the predators, human or otherwise, were operating with a chilling efficiency that left investigators and ranchers grappling with more questions than solutions. And so, the mystery deepens. Was this the work of a malevolent force that thrives on leaving no trace? Or are we simply looking in the wrong places for explanations? There is a 512-acre property in Utah that, aside from cattle mutilations, has become synonymous with paranormal phenomenon. Skinwalker Ranch is a hotspot for UFO sightings, cryptid sightings, and more, capturing the imagination of researchers and skeptics alike. The name itself, Skinwalker Ranch, comes from Navajo folklore. Skinwalkers are said to be malevolent witches with the ability to shapeshift into animals. But the strangeness of this ranch goes far beyond the legend. The stories here border on science fiction, or perhaps a reality we just don't understand yet. Cattle mutilations at Skinwalker Ranch have mirrored those in Oregon. Clean surgical precisions, the removal of specific organs, and the baffling absence of blood or struggle. Ranchers reported finding their cattle lifeless, with no footprints or signs of predator, and no logical explanation for what occurred. In one instance, a calf was found mutilated just hours after birth, the scene so bizarre and pristine it left even seasoned investigators stunned. But this ranch isn't just a site of mutilations. It's a hotspot for UFO activity. Witnesses have reported seeing glowing orbs of light, unidentified crafts of all shapes and sizes, and even transient portals. Some who have studied the phenomenon at Skinwalker Ranch believe these portals might be gateways to other dimensions. According to this theory, what is considered UFOs or strange creatures could actually be interdimensional entities crossing over into our world. The idea is both unsettling and fascinating, suggesting that the ranch might sit at the crossroads of multiple realities. Another prevalent theory is tied to extraterrestrial experimentation. Observers have seen beads of light emanating from unidentified objects, seemingly scanning the land below. Could these lights be part of some alien research? Perhaps collecting biological samples for studies? If so, the cattle mutilations might represent a grim byproduct of this research, their organs harvested for an efficiency that defies human explanation. In 1994, Terry and Gwen Sherman, along with their 2 children, purchased what we now refer to as Skinwalker Ranch, believing it would be their dream property. But their excitement quickly turned into dread as they encountered a series of bizarre and terrifying phenomenon. It started with small, unsettling details. The Shermans noticed strange circular impressions in their fields, as though something heavy had landed there. Then came the sightings. Glowing orbs of light that darted across the sky and hovered over their property. These lights weren't just eerie, they seemed to exhibit intelligence, moving in ways that defied explanation. One of the most infamous incidents involved a massive wolf-like creature. Shortly after moving in, the family spotted the animal near their livestock. At first, it seemed calm, even allowing them to approach. But then it suddenly attacked one of the calves. Terry Sherman shot at it multiple times, yet the creature appeared unfazed, as though impervious to bullets. It eventually wandered off, leaving no blood or tracks behind it. It was around this time that the cattle mutilations started. The Shermans found their livestock dead under mysterious circumstances. Sexual organs, tongue, eyes, and other body parts removed with surgical-like precision. And similar to the other mutilations that were reported around the country, there was no blood at the scene or signs of struggle. Inside the house was no different than the fields. The family experienced poltergeist-like activity. Objects would disappear and reappear in strange places. Doors would slam shut on their own, and they often heard disembodied voices speaking in an unfamiliar language. The Shermans described the atmosphere as oppressive, as though they were constantly being watched. Around the farm, glowing blue orbs seemed to follow the family. One night, the family's dogs chased these orbs into the woods. Tragically, the dogs would be later found dead, adding another layer of heartbreak to the Shermans' ordeal. After enduring nearly 2 years of relentless phenomenon, the Shermans decided that they couldn't take it anymore. They sold the ranch in 1996 to Robert Bigelow, a billionaire with a keen interest in the paranormal. Bigelow's team, the National Institute for Discovery Science, or NIDS. Since then, the ranch has been monitored by researchers, including Robert's team, who recorded magnetic anomalies, mysterious illnesses, and sightings of red-eyed creatures. Despite extensive surveillance, definitive answers have remained elusive as ever.
You. Still haunting the same old fast fashion? Time to dig up something better with Back from the Dead Goods, a Canadian small business where forgotten threads get a second life and sustainability meets spooky. This isn't just upcycled clothing, it's resurrected fashion with an eerie edge. Handpicked, reworked, and revived, every piece is as unique as a ghost story whispered at midnight. And because you're a part of the Canadian Creepies family, you get an exclusive deal. Use code Canadian Creepies at checkout for 10% off. Find them lurking on Instagram, Etsy, and Poshmark. Links are in the episode description. Give your wardrobe a second chance at life, if you dare. Once upon a time, in the land of everyday moments, there lived a sprinkle of magic called icing sugar photography. From sticky cake smash smiles to wind-swept yes moments, they capture the sugar sweet, the beautifully messy, and everything in between. Whether you're a blushing bride or a blooming family, or just want to freeze time for a second, icing sugar photography is your fairy god lens. Visit icingsugarphotography.com and follow along on Instagram at icingsugarphoto. Let your story sparkle, because life is sweet and memories should be too. Looking for your next obsession? The Creators Collective Podcasts is your gateway to the dark, the chilling, and the downright fascinating. We're a community of independent podcasts with one goal: to share the best in true crime, paranormal tales, folklore, and unexplained mysteries. Whether you crave cold cases that won't stay closed, haunted histories that refuse to be forgotten, or stories that make you sleep with the lights on, there's a show waiting for you in the collective. And when you join us, you're not just listening to one podcast. You're stepping into a world of creators who love this stuff as much as you do. Check out the Creators Collective today. Follow the link in our show notes to discover your next favorite podcast. We'll be waiting for you. Let's take a moment during this break to talk about something that matters. Something that doesn't get to be background noise. The Anishinaabe-Moan word, Niki Nagana, means we are all related, and we are. But relationship isn't just about words, it's about responsibility. Canadian author Naomi Klein once said, "It is not enough to say that we live on Indigenous land. We have to act as if we do." And one way to do that is by supporting Pay Your Rent, a grassroots mutual aid initiative that offers direct material support to Indigenous organizers across this land. It's not charity, it's rent. For those of us who aren't Indigenous to this place, it's a way to show up differently, to redistribute some of what's been taken. The Pay Your Rent Fund started as a one-time request for help in 2018 and grew into a nonprofit called Niki Nagana. Your monthly or one-time donation can help provide food, hygiene supplies, housing support, and resources for Indigenous-led resistance and community care. So if you've ever said, "We're all related," ask yourself, are you being a good relative? Visit payyourrent.ca and find out more about how you can be part of something better. Now, back to this case.
The bizarre cattle mutilations continue to baffle investigators and ranchers. The precision of the injuries, the absence of blood, the lack of evidence pointing to predator or human involvement kept the phenomenon shrouded in uncertainty. It wasn't long before the growing number of cases and the financial toll on ranchers got the attention of the federal authorities. In the late 1970s, the FBI became involved in investigating cattle mutilations across the American heartland, including cases in Utah and neighboring states. The involvement was largely prompted by pressure from local communities and politicians, including Senator Floyd Haskell of Colorado, who raised concern about the economic impact on ranchers and the eerie nature of the incidents. The FBI's jurisdiction was limited, but they stepped in to investigate cases occurring on Native American land, or when federal crimes were suspected. The FBI's investigation culminated in a report released in 1980, which concluded that the mutilations were likely the work of scavengers and natural predators. According to the report, decomposition and environmental factors could create the appearance of surgical precision, while scavengers might selectively target soft tissues like the eyes, tongues, and reproductive organs. This explanation, however, did little to satisfy the ranchers, who had witnessed the aftermath firsthand. Many ranchers remained deeply skeptical of the FBI's conclusions. They argued that the injuries were far too precise to be caused by wildlife, and that the absence of blood and tracks around the carcass defied natural explanations. Some even suggested that the FBI's findings were an attempt to downplay the phenomenon and avoid further public alarm. As one rancher famously put it, "I've been around cattle all my life, and I can sure tell whether it's been done by a coyote or a sharp instrument." This skepticism paved the way for deeper scrutiny of the role of scavengers like coyotes and magpies, as well as the unsettling instances where animal carcasses remained untouched by scavengers altogether. Take, for example, a case in Colorado from the 1970s. A rancher discovered a cow with its tongue, udders, and rectum removed. The cuts were described as unnervingly clean, almost as if made with surgical tools. What stood out even more was that the carcass remained untouched for days, despite being in an area teeming with scavengers. Coyotes and birds, which would typically descend on a fresh kill, seemed to avoid the body entirely. This pattern has been reported in numerous cases, leaving the investigators puzzled. Revisiting the Oregon's 2019 cases, the bulls were found with similarly precise injuries. The animal's blood had been completely drained, and yet no scavengers approached the carcass. Ranchers noticed that even insects, which would normally swarm a dead animal, were absent. The lack of scavenger activity has led some to speculate that there might be some unknown factor, perhaps a chemical or a scent, that deters wildlife from approaching these mutilated bodies. Skeptics argue that environmental conditions or the timing of discovery could explain the absence of scavengers. For instance, a carcass found shortly after death might not have yet been attacked by wildlife. But in many of these cases, the bodies were left in the open for extended periods, making the lack of scavenger activity all the more unusual. The precision of the injuries also raises questions. While scavengers like magpies might peck at soft tissue, they usually don't leave behind clean surgical-like cuts, often observed in these cases. The discrepancy has fueled debates about whether these mutilations could be the results of human intervention, advanced technology, or even something more mysterious. The Montana radar anomaly, detected in February of 2023, offers a provocative clue into the pattern of cattle mutilations that have plagued ranchers for decades. The radar signal identified near Hayrier, Montana, prompted NORAD to dispatch fighter jets and briefly close airspace in the region. Despite intensive efforts to locate the source, no physical object was found, leaving the anomaly unresolved. The incident unfolded in a state already infamous for both cattle mutilations and UFO sightings, sparking questions about whether advanced aerial technology could be linked to the mutilations. Montana's history of cattle mutilation is rife with reports of unexplained phenomenon coinciding the discovery of mutilated livestock. Witnesses have described seeing glowing orbs or unidentified crafts hovering over pastures in areas where mutilations were later reported. In several cases, these sightings occurred within hours of the discovery of cattle carcasses, drawing attention to the potential connection between aerial anomalies and the precise bloodless injuries observed on the animals. One particularly noticeable case from Great Falls in 1970s involved a rancher who found his cows mutilated just after neighbors reported bright spherical lights darting across the sky. The timing and the proximity in the sightings to the mutilation reinforced theories of advanced technology or extraterrestrial involvement. The radar anomaly detected in 2023 shares similarities, suggesting that advanced, perhaps cloaked crafts could still be active in the Montana skies. While the anomaly itself yielded no visible object, its detection raises questions about what might evade traditional tracking systems, yet influence phenomenon on the ground. Whether extraterrestrial crafts or interdimensional entities, the lack of physical evidence parallels the challenges of investigating cattle mutilation cases. Both phenomena seem to operate at the edge of human understanding, with tantalizing hints that suggest a broader connection between unexplained aerial activity and the mutilations. Fernand Bazell, a retired cattle rancher from St. Paul, Alberta, became a prominent figure in the investigation of cattle mutilation. Over the years, he documented more than 30 cases across the prairies, many of which involved cattle found with surgically precise cuts and missing organs, like the tongues, eyes, and sex organs. What sets Bazell apart was his openness to unconventional explanations, including the possibility of extraterrestrial involvement. Bazell's investigation revealed patterns that he believed could be explained by predators or natural causes. For instance, he often found animals on their backs with parts of their faces removed in straight surgical-like lines. He also noted that scavengers avoided the carcasses, which he found unusual. And while he never claimed to have seen a UFO himself, he argued that the evidence pointed to something beyond human or animal activity. His work gained attention at events like the St. Paul UFO and Cattle Mutilation Conference, where he presented his findings to an audience eager for answers. Despite skepticism from veterinarians, law enforcement, and insurance investigators, Bazell remained steadfast in his belief that the mutilations were not random or natural occurrences. Alberta, Canada, has seen its fair share of cattle mutilation cases, many of which echo the chilling details reported in the United States. These incidents have left ranchers grappling with frustration and fear, as the mutilations often defy logical explanations and remain unsolved. On a quiet summer day in June 2015, Karen Farquharson stepped into the tall grass near her family farm in Madden, northwest of Calgary. What she found would haunt her and spark questions that remain unanswered to this day. A cow laid motionless, seemingly at rest, but as Karen approached, she realized something was terribly wrong. The animal's eye, udder, vagina, and uterus had been removed with eerie surgical precision. There was no blood, no tracks, no visible sign of struggles. A mystery that left Karen grappling with fear and frustration. The local RCMP investigated, but could not determine a cause, leaving Karen and her family with more questions than answers. The chilling discovery was not an isolated incident. Alberta has been grappling with cattle mutilations for decades, with reports stretching back into the 1970s. Ranchers have long speculated that many of these cases may be linked to secret government activities. The surgical precision of the mutilation and the absence of blood or tracks have led to theories of covert experiments or biological testing. While there is no direct evidence to substantiate government involvement, the lack of answers from authorities have left ranchers suspicious and frustrated. On the other hand, cult activity has been another recurring theory. During 1979 and 1980, after a wave of mutilations in southern Alberta, the Calgary RCMP suspected cult involvement due to the ritualistic nature of the cuts and the specific removal of organs. They also noted that most of the mutilations were occurring during fall and autumn seasons. Animal sacrifices have been practiced for centuries, deeply rooted in religious and spiritual and ceremony traditions. From ancient civilizations to modern-day rituals, the act of offering an animal's life has been seen as a way to appease deities, seek blessings, or connect with the divine. These practices have evolved over time, but the symbolic significance of timing, blood, and specific organs remains a common thread. In ancient cultures like Greece, Rome, and Egypt, animal sacrifices were integral to religious ceremonies. Specific organs, such as the liver or the heart, were often considered sacred and used for divination or offerings. Timing played a crucial role, with sacrifices aligning with celestial events, seasonal changes, or religious festivals. For example, the Paschal Lamb in Judaism is sacrificed during Passover, symbolizing deliverance and divine favor. Fast forward to today, and some cults and fringe groups continue to practice animal sacrifices, often in secret. These rituals may be tied to occult beliefs, satanic practices, or other eccentric traditions. For instance, the Santeria religion, originating in Cuba, incorporates animal sacrifices as part of its ceremonies to honor deities. While Santeria is a recognized religion, its practices have sometimes been misunderstood or sensationalized. Bazell has been a vocal advocate for deeper investigations into these cases. He has argued that the precision and patterns of these mutilations suggest deliberate intent, if not beyond human means. These could possibly be tied to ceremonial practices. Bazell's work has brought attention to the symbolic elements of these incidents, though definitive proof remains elusive. Timing is a particularly intriguing aspect. Many mutilations occur in clusters or during specific times of years, which could correspond to ceremonial calendars or occult practices. For example, ranchers in St. Paul, Alberta have reported mutilations happening during the fall, a time often associated with harvest rituals and transition. The removal of organs like eyes and tongues may hold symbolic significance, representing vision, speech, or the life force of certain belief systems. Ranchers like Felix Simmel, who found one of his cows dead with its eyes, tongue, and sex organs removed, have noted that similar cases often occur in the fall, adding to the mystery of timing. Simmel's observations align with the theories that these acts could be part of a larger ritualistic pattern. The mystery of cattle mutilations have often led ranchers to question whether government experiments could be involved. This suspicion isn't without precedent. One of the most infamous examples of government testing gone wrong is the Dugway sheep incident in Utah. In March of 1968, over 6,000 sheep in Skull Valley were killed after being exposed to the nerve agent VX during a U.S. Army testing in the Dugway Proving Ground 2. Sheep deaths were initially denied by the Army, but later investigations revealed that a malfunction during the chemical weapon testing had caused the release of a deadly agent. This incident became a flashpoint for public distrust in the government, with transparency and accountability. Such events have led many ranchers to question whether the government might be conducting covert experiments involving cattle. For many, the precision of the cuts and the removal of organs in cattle mutilations echoes the kind of expertise associated with controlled experiments. The absence of blood and the lack of tracks around the sites have heightened suspicions of covert biological or genetic testing. Ranchers have voiced concerns that the government might be using their livestock for secretive purposes without their consent or knowledge. The timing of these mutilations is another detail that raises eyebrows. Clusters of incidents seem to coincide with specific seasons or periods, leading speculations that they might align with controlled schedules, whether for tests, experiments, or otherwise. The organs being removed, such as the eyes, tongues, and reproductive parts, are of particular interest, often considered key in medical or scientific research for studying disease, reproduction, or even environmental impact. Globally, ranchers who encounter such incidents often feel ignored or dismissed by authorities. The lack of thorough explanation only deepens the mistrust and opens the door to a range of theories, some plausible and others speculative. What if the answer to the mystery of cattle mutilations isn't human? What if, after ruling out predators, cults, and government experiments, we're left with something supernatural? And if it's not aliens, then what else could be out there? One legend from Latin America offers an eerie possibility. The chupacabra, a creature whose name translates to goat sucker in Spanish. Since its first reported sightings in Puerto Rico during the late 1980s, the chupacabra has been synonymous with unexplained livestock deaths. Ranchers and farmers across Latin America have described finding their animals dead, with puncture marks on their necks or chests, and their bodies mysteriously drained of blood. These chilling details mirror patterns seen in cattle mutilations worldwide. But the story doesn't end there. In many cases linked to the chupacabra, specific organs, eyes, tongue, and reproductive parts are missing. The precision in which these organs are removed raises questions about how the creature could achieve this. Could this cryptid be something more than a bloodsucker? Something intelligent, deliberate? The lore surrounding the chupacabra is fascinating. Depictions vary. Some say it resembles a reptilian creature with sharp spines running down its back, while others compare it to a mangy dog or vampiric beast. Yet, as much as these accounts differ, they all share the same eerie idea. that the chupacabra is no ordinary predator, and the timing of its attacks adds another layer of intrigue. Many mutilations occur in clusters, often coinciding with seasonal changes, suggesting a connection to patterns in the environment or even cryptic rituals. Folklore plays a powerful role in shaping our understanding of the unknown. When rational explanation fails, stories like that of the chupacabra offer communities a way to comprehend or cope with fear. For ranchers in Latin America, attributing mutilations to the chupacabra can feel more plausible than confronting an unsolvable mystery. But could folklore also obscure the truth? Is it possible that this cryptid is more than a cultural creation? The symbolic elements of these attacks deepen the mystery. Blood, revered in many cultures as the essence of life, is drained completely. Eyes and tongues, symbolic of perception and communication, are removed. Reproductive organs, the seat of life itself, vanish. These specific targets align with deeper meanings that transcend mere survival instincts, hinting at something far more ritualistic or supernatural. The thought of cattle mutilations is chilling enough, but when the victim is a person, the horror reaches new levels entirely. The Guaraparanga Reservoir case, often referred to as one of the most disturbing human mutilation incidents, is a haunting example of this. In 1988, the mutilated body of a middle-aged man was discovered on the banks of the Guaraparanga Reservoir in Brazil. For the sake of respect to the victim and their family, his name will not be mentioned. The scene was gruesome. The body was missing eyes, ears, and lips, and the facial tissue had been removed with surgical precision. The tongue and parts of the jaw were gone, and the chest cavity had been opened, with several integral organs extracted. Even more unsettling, the body was completely drained of blood, yet there were no signs of struggle or trauma found at the site. In fact, there was evidence discovered during the autopsy that suggested this person had experienced extreme amounts of pain. Yet despite this, there was nothing to suggest that they attempted to fight back, but rather, they allowed the torment to happen. There were no drag marks at the site of discovery either, almost as if the body had been dropped there from the sky. Investigators noted that the cuts appeared clean and deliberate, resembling the precision seen in the cattle mutilation cases. What makes this case particularly haunting is how closely it mirrors the characteristics of cattle mutilations. In both instances, the removal of organs like eyes, tongues, and reproductive parts is performed with an almost surgical level of precision. The complete absence of blood and the lack of tracks or any evidence around the site further deepens the mysteries. The similarities raises unsettling questions. Could the same forces responsible for cattle mutilations also target humans? Maybe there is no discrimination between species. This case gained further attention when the Brazilian ufologists and forensic experts examined the autopsy photos, noting that the injuries resembled those found in documented UFO-related mutilation cases. Some researchers pointed to high radiation levels detected near the site, while others speculated that the victim had been subjected to advanced surgical procedures beyond human capabilities. Theories ranged from the government experiments to extraterrestrial involvement, but no definitive answers have ever been found. Cattle mutilations have become a disturbing global issue. Across continents, ranchers and communities face a pattern of livestock deaths that leave questions with no answers. The parallels between the incidents in Alberta, Utah, Latin America, and beyond reflect a shared mystery that transcends geography and borders. The stakes rise further when the phenomenon extends to human cases. The implications are profound, pointing to the need for answers that have so far eluded investigators and researchers. As the shadows deepen along the crooked path, let the chilling tales of cattle mutilations remind us of the mysteries that persist in our world, unanswered and unsettling. These stories challenge our understanding and force us to confront our fears, asking us to consider unknown forces that might linger just beyond the reach of reason. This is Amanda Joy, signing off from Down the Crooked Path. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and let the enigmas of our world light your way forward. Until next time. If you enjoyed this episode of Down the Crooked Path, be sure to check out our sister podcast, Canadian Creepies. Every Tuesday, Down the Crooked Path has a featured segment. Episode 3 featured cattle mutilations of Alberta. So if this episode intrigued you, and you want to hear more Canadian mutilation stories, like Karen Farkinson, go check it out, available everywhere you get your podcasts.